27. The floor is cold under my bare feet, even through my stockings. Sunday light slips in thin and pale, catching dust in the air like it always does. The house is quiet, too quiet, no children yet, no scraping, just the soft sound of fabric as I tie my apron and the faint creak of the beams. Overhead, I fasten my white cap more carefully than usual, my fingers slow, almost stiff. My chest feels tight. I breathe shallow. I know, before the day even starts, that what I said 6 days ago is coming with me. My name is Sarah, and this is Quiet Testimonies. I share the stories many of us were taught to carry in silence. If you've ever lived inside rules you didn't choose, you're welcome here. Subscribe if this kind of truth matters to you, and tell me in the comments. Have you ever been punished for your voice? Sunday mornings always moved slower in our house. Not lazy, deliberate. Every motion had its place. Dresses laid out the night before, shoes lined near the door. I had learned from girlhood that preparation was a form of obedience. That morning, though, each step felt heavier. The boards under my feet were cold, the air sharp with early spring. Outside, the sky held that pale gray blue it gets before full light, and a thin frost still clung to the grass. I kept thinking how ordinary everything looked, the same house, the same quiet. And yet my body knew something was different. I knew that what I had said on Monday would follow me into the church like a second shadow. I hadn't meant for it to travel. Words spoken in a kitchen are supposed to stay there. That's what I believed then. I moved through the familiar motions, packing food, smoothing fabric, checking the children's clothes, with the strange feeling that I was already being watched. No one had spoken to me yet. No accusations, no questions, but silence can be loud in an Amish house. And that week it had grown thick enough to press against my ears. It had been Monday afternoon. The children were outside. Bread dough rested under a cloth on the counter. My husband stood near the table, looking over papers about a small decision, nothing dramatic. A purchase, a change in timing. I remember the way the light fell across his hands. He spoke, assuming agreement, the way we both had been trained to assume it. And tired, maybe, or simply awake, shifted. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I said calmly, "I think there's another way we could do this." That was it. Those were the words. The room went still, not angry still, afraid still. He didn't shout. He didn't correct me. He just stopped moving, as if the air had thickened around him. I understood, even then, what frightened him wasn't disagreement. It was exposure. A wife's voice is not just her own in our world. It reflects on her husband, on his authority, on his household. I saw the fear cross his face, quick and unguarded, and I felt a small, sharp regret, not for speaking, but for not realizing sooner what it would cost both of us. By Tuesday, I could feel the shift. A neighbor came for eggs and didn't linger. At quilting, a woman I'd known since childhood smiled without meeting my eyes. Amish communities don't need telephones for news to move. It travels through glances, pauses, visits that last just a little too long. I didn't know who had spoken first. I only knew that the words I'd offered so quietly had begun to belong to everyone. I kept asking myself the same question while I worked. Had I sinned, or had I simply spoken? In those days, I prayed more than usual. Not for forgiveness, at least not at first, but for understanding. Gelassenheit had been taught to me as yielding, as the holy laying down of self. I whispered the old prayers my mother taught me, the ones about surrender and peace. While my hands scrubbed pots and folded laundry, my mind kept circling the same place. I tried to locate the exact moment where thought became disobedience. I wondered if silence itself was meant to be a form of faith, or if I had mistaken habit for holiness all along. The deacon came on Thursday evening. He arrived with concern, not anger, and that almost hurt more. He sat at the table with my husband, speaking in the careful language of Ordnung, of harmony, of keeping the household aligned. He didn't look at me directly. He spoke about me while I stood at the counter, my hands in warm dishwater, my back turned. The sound of plates clinking filled the pauses. I listened as if I were not there at all, as if my presence might complicate things. In that moment, I understood how easily a woman can disappear without leaving the room. That night, after the deacon left, my husband told me what would happen on Sunday. His voice was quiet, not unkind. He spoke as if repeating something already decided. already set in motion. I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't ask him whether he was protecting me or protecting himself, because I wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. When I lay down to sleep, the house dark and still around me, I knew only this. Sunday was coming, and before I walked through that door, I would have to decide what I believed about myself. The buggy ride is quiet. The horse's hooves strike the road in a steady rhythm that usually calms me, but today it only counts the seconds. Cold air slips in around the edges of the blanket, sharp against my cheeks. The children sit behind us, whispering, asking small questions about who will be there, who baked this week. My husband keeps his eyes forward. I watch his hands hold the reins. Familiar hands, careful hands. The road looks the same as it always has. Fields still bare from winter, fence posts leaning slightly. It comforts me. How little the world seems to notice what is about to happen. The host family's house is already full when we arrive. Boots line the entryway. The smell of wool and wood smoke hangs in the air. Inside, the benches are set in their usual rows, men on one side, women on the other. The narrow aisle between us, like a quiet border, we begin to sing. The lob lead stretches long and slow, each note unaccompanied, rising and falling together. I have loved this singing my entire life. Today it feels different against my skin, like a familiar hand resting where a bruise is forming. I sing anyway. My voice does not break. As the service moves forward, I notice small things. A woman across the room glances at me and then away too quickly. It is the neighbor who came for eggs earlier in the week. In that moment, I understand how my words traveled, not with cruelty, not even with intention, just with habit. The system survives because we carry it for each other. I don't feel anger toward her. What I feel is a slow sadness, the kind that settles deep. We are all careful. We are all watching, and most of us are just trying to stay inside the lines we were given. After the main service ends, the children and unbaptized youth file out. The door closes. The sound of it feels final in a way I can't explain. This is the members' meeting. I have seen others sit through it before. I remember a woman years ago kneeling where I now sit. She had looked so small then. I didn't understand what that moment had taken from her. The air in the room changes, thicker, heavier. The bishop speaks about Ordnung, about harmony in the home, about how a wife's pride can disturb the peace of a whole district. He does not say my name. Everyone knows it anyway. When I am asked to come forward, my legs move before my thoughts catch up. The floor is harder than I expect. The wood presses through the fabric of my dress into my knees. My hands fold together in my lap, a habit older than memory. I find myself staring at the boots of the man across from me, noticing the way the heel is worn down more on one side. It feels important, that detail, the ordinariness of it. I am asked whether I believe my behavior was against the Ordnung. I am asked whether I intend to submit to the authority of my husband in the church. The room waits. The pause before I answer feels long enough to hold an entire life. I think of my mother's hands, of my children's faces that morning, of the prayers I have said and the ones I have avoided. I say yes, my voice is steady. I do not rebel, I do not collapse. What surprises me is not the answer, but the feeling that comes with it. I learn in that moment exactly where my line is by how close I have come to crossing it. Gelassenheit shows itself to me not as disappearance, but as endurance. I am still here. If you have ever given the right answer while the truest one lived somewhere quieter inside your chest, you already know this feeling. You are not alone in it. If stories like this matter to you, stay with me here at Quiet Testimonies. After the meeting ends, we share a meal. Plates are passed, voices return to their normal level. A woman presses a hard candy into my palm as she walks by. She doesn't say a word. Her fingers linger just a second longer than necessary. That small kindness carries more weight than anything spoken. The world smooths itself back into place. I do not. Later in the kitchen, I stand beside the woman who once knelt before me years ago. She hands me a dish to dry. I take it. We work in silence, the rhythm familiar, steady. Nothing needs to be explained. I still love the singing. I still love the way my community holds joy and grief with the same careful hands. And I know now that those same hands can, without meaning to, hold you down. Both things are true. If you were taught that having a voice made you a problem, hear this. You were never the problem. You were simply born somewhere that had not yet learned how to listen.